what if WCW was not bought in 2001? So, Brian, that is something that that you saw firsthand, and obviously Jimmy was there as well. But what do you guys think would have happened if WCW was not bought in 2001?
Man, to me, that's the toughest one you've asked so far. If it wasn't bought by WWE, I think it would have been a lot better. In other words, if it wasn't monopolized, this could have worked if someone would have bought it. Say a Tony Khan.
Well, or how about this though? Do you think, and Jimmy, you can also comment on this too. I put an addendum to this, a little addition. If WCW was not bought, would we have seen Jeff Jarrett create TNA?
Well, no, you wouldn't have. But
Right.
what if someone like a Jeff Jarrett and a partner bought WCW and it wasn't a Vince McMahon owned property?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know, man. Really weird. I mean, I don't guess anyone else could have bought it. I guess I don't know. I just think it kind of. I think it kind of overall, when you look back, kind of sucked for a lot of reasons. Kind of sucked the juice out of the head-to-head thing.
Yeah.
And just kind of made it all one. And if I'm not mistaken, these were the worst years that number-wise, as far as money generated and all that stuff, was when this happened for WWE. So I don't think it was the best thing that could have ever happened, obviously, and we know now it wasn't. But what could have been better would have been probably someone outside buying it other than Vince.
I will say this: the only positive that came out of that was without WWE purchasing WCW and their library, a lot of talents probably would have lost their jobs. A lot did, but even more so if he didn't buy it, because now he has this built-in. I'm going to create my own Monday Night Wars. I'm going to create my own rivalry. The only problem was they didn't have the outlet for their acquisition of WCW. When WCW was acquired by WWE, they were no longer on TBS.
Mm-hmm.
So if they were allowed to keep that entity on TBS, but I'm sure there was some kind of rule out there where the owner of two brands cannot compete against each other in the same time slot on different channels or something along those lines. I'm not a lawyer. As much as I like Law and Order, I don't know the law that well. But I'm sure there was some kind of clause in there where they can't do something like that. They can't compete with each other if they're owned by the same entity.
Jimmy, before we close things out,
mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask you and RJ a question. After the purchase of WCW, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now they're in the WWE fold. What's the biggest moment we got out of that? Other than the actual purchase, which was with Shane showing up on, WCW. Take that out. I'm talking about what's the biggest moment, a WrestleMania moment, other than obviously, all right, taking out Shane, taking out Rock and Hogan, because I guess Rock and Hogan wouldn't have happened had the purchase not happened. Other than that, what's the biggest moment that came out of this purchase?
Well, if you take those moments out, it's tough to find one.
Right.
I'll tell you what though. You say Rock and Hogan wouldn't have happened. I think eventually it could have happened because they would have brought Hogan back, regardless. If WCW went away and they didn't purchase it, they would have brought Hogan back
for sure.
But like you said, what was the biggest moment? I'm sure somebody out there will come out and say, "Well, what about this? What about that?" Those are the two biggest moments: Shane showing up on WCW on their final Nitro, and Hogan Rock at WrestleMania.
Yeah, I mean, just nothing's left there to give. I mean, really, if you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
What about? I don't know if this is a moment or a scenario, but what about with Booker T showing up and taking out Austin?
It was a moment, but is it a moment we're all going to remember? No, because you just saying that made me think about it. No, I'm not saying you're wrong, RJ.
Yeah.
That might be the biggest moment outside of those two. That could have been it. But there's nothing that just makes me think right here, right now, a big moment why when WCW was purchased that it was worth it and made something so good that we could have never seen before.
Something just popped in my head. If you're trying to remember big moments, the introduction of a new Raw general manager.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
Because,
EB?
yeah, just because, you know what I mean? Everybody was shocked when they saw Shane come out on Nitro. They were just as shocked when they saw Eric Bischoff come out on Raw.
That is true.
And him
Okay.
and Mr. McMahon shaking hands and the big guy hug.
Mm-hmm.
Without their tips touching. Okay.
I think we just did it. We just named the 3 biggest moments of that purchase.
Mm-hmm.
So
Shane McMahon showing up.
Yeah.
Rock Hogan.
And EB.
And Eric Bischoff showing up on Monday Night Raw.